The night Olivia Carter sent the text, she was sitting on the kitchen floor because standing made her dizzy. The apartment was quiet in the way only poor places get quiet. Not peaceful. Empty. The refrigerator hummed like it was working harder than it should, even though there was almost nothing inside. A single light above the sink flickered every few seconds, casting long shadows across the linoleum. Olivia did not bother fixing it. She had learned to live around small problems. This one did not cry. The baby did. Noah's whimper started soft, like he was embarrassed to need something. Then it grew sharper, desperate, the sound of a tiny body realizing comfort was not coming fast enough. Olivia pressed her forehead against her knees and counted his breaths through the wall. She knew the rhythm. She had memorized it the way some people memorized prayer. She reached for the empty formula container on the counter and turned it upside down again, as if gravity might suddenly change its mind. Nothing came out. It had been empty since that morning. She had stretched the last scoop with water she had boiled twice to be safe. The pediatrician had warned her not to do it again. Olivia had nodded like someone with options. Her phone lay beside her, screen cracked, battery at 9%. She picked it up slowly, as if moving too fast might make the situation real. There was only one person she could ask. Her older cousin Mark. He had helped once before, though not kindly. He liked to remind her that single motherhood was not a surprise. She accepted the reminders because reminders still came with money sometimes. Her fingers hovered over his name. Pride is not loud when you are poor. It is quiet and heavy, and it sits on your chest while you make choices you swore you never would. She started typing. Hey Mark, I'm sorry to ask again. I just need $60 for formula. Noah's out. I get paid next week. I'll pay you back. I promise. Her thumb trembled as she hit send. She did not double-check the contact. She did not reread the message. She just set the phone face down on the floor and wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly like that might help him from across the apartment. The cry stopped for a moment. Then it started again, louder this time. Her phone buzzed. Olivia grabbed it so fast it almost slipped from her hands. I think you have the wrong number. Her stomach dropped. She stared at the screen, heat rushing to her face, humiliation blooming fast and sharp. One wrong digit. One mistake layered on top of too many others. She typed back immediately. I'm so sorry. Please ignore that. Wrong number. She locked the screen and pressed the phone against her chest like it had burned her. She did not throw it. She did not curse. She just sat there, breathing shallowly, letting the shame pass through her the way she had learned to do. Somewhere in the apartment, Noah cried himself hoarse. 3 miles away, in a glass tower overlooking downtown Chicago, Ethan Caldwell read the message again. He had not given this number to anyone in years. Not after the board leaks. Not after the tabloids. Not after he learned how easily people reached for him when they thought they could. The phone was supposed to be silent. It usually was. He read the text slowly, not like someone skimming spam, but like someone reading a note left on a windshield. I just need $60 for formula. There was no sales pitch. No urgency spelled in capital letters. No mention of his name. Just a quiet ask wrapped in apology. He could tell she expected rejection. He could tell because she had offered repayment immediately. Desperation without entitlement. That combination was rare. He should have ignored it. Instead, he typed one sentence. Is your baby okay right now? Olivia stared at the reply like it had arrived in a different language. Who asked that? She almost blocked the number. That would have been safer. But something about the question stopped her. It was not curious. It was not nosy. It was practical. Present tense. Right now? We'll manage, she typed back. Sorry again. Another buzz. I can help. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She let out a short laugh that surprised even her. She had heard that line before. It always came with expectations. She typed carefully. Thank you, but I don't take money from strangers. A pause. I'm Ethan, came the reply, and I'm not offering strings. She stood up and walked into the bedroom, lifting Noah from the crib, pressing her cheek to his warm hair. He smelled like soap and sweat, and something sweet that made her throat tighten. She fed him the last diluted bottle, shushing softly, whispering apologies he could not understand. When he finally slept, she sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the dark screen of her phone. She did something she had promised herself she would never do again. She sent her account details. The response came almost immediately. Notification. Deposit received. $1,000. Olivia froze. She opened her banking app, closed it, opened it again. The number did not change. Her hand started shaking so badly she had to set the phone down. "This is too much," she typed. "I only needed 60. "It's already yours," he replied. "Get what he needs." She did not cry when her job at the dental lab cut her hours until she could not afford childcare. She did not cry when the daycare waitlist called to say her spot had gone to someone else. She did not cry when Noah's father stopped answering texts halfway through her pregnancy. She cried now. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was the kind of crying that comes from relief hitting a body that has been braced for too long. Tears fell onto the screen as she typed "thank you" over and over, deleting it, typing again, unable to find words that did not feel small. "You don't have to say anything," Ethan replied. "Just take care of Noah." Her breath caught. She had never told him the baby's name. She did not sleep that night. She sat on the couch watching the numbers on her phone like they might disappear. She thought about scams, about screenshots, about the news stories that start like this and end badly. She thought about the way his messages were short, careful, not warm, but not cold either. Around dawn, curiosity won. She searched his name. The articles loaded fast. Ethan Caldwell, founder and CEO of Caldwell Health Systems. Net worth estimated at $800 million. Media shy. Philanthropic quietly. Widowed 3 years ago. No children. There were photos of him outside federal buildings, in tailored suits, face unreadable. He looked nothing like the kind men who had promised her help before. He looked like someone who had learned the cost of attention. Her phone buzzed. "You still awake?" "Yes," she typed. "Did you look me up?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered honestly. "Yes." "That's fair," he replied. She stared at the ceiling for a long time before typing again. "Why did you really help me?" Several minutes passed. In that quiet space, a memory surfaced without permission. A different kitchen, years earlier. Olivia at 19, standing in her mother's apartment in Joliet, holding a letter she did not understand yet. Her mother sitting at the table, face pale, whispering that the rent had gone up again, that they would figure it out, that they always did, the way they never did. Her phone buzzed, pulling her back. "Because someone helped me once," Ethan wrote, "when they didn't have to, and because no child should feel hunger when it can be prevented." She pressed the phone to her chest, heart beating hard. In the quiet of her apartment, with Noah finally sleeping full and warm, Olivia Carter felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not hope, stability. And she did not yet know that this was only the beginning. By morning, the apartment smelled like boiled water and cheap coffee, and for the first time in weeks, Olivia did not dread opening her eyes. Noah woke hungry, as usual, but this time she did not panic. She fed him properly, watching the tension drain from his small body as he drank without stopping, without coughing, without that thin cry that had haunted her sleep. When he finished, he looked up at her with milk-drunk seriousness, like he was trying to memorize her face. Olivia laughed quietly and kissed his forehead, the sound unfamiliar but welcome. Her phone buzzed on the counter. "You should rest," Ethan texted. "I ordered supplies. They'll arrive today." She froze. Supplies. She stared at the message, a new kind of fear blooming in her chest. Money was one thing. Deliveries were different. Deliveries came with addresses, with proof, with reality pressing closer than she was ready for. "You didn't have to," she typed. "I wanted to," he replied. No cameras. No announcements. She believed him. She did not know why, but she did. The knock came just after noon. Olivia nearly dropped Noah trying to get to the door. No one knocked in her building unless something was wrong. She peered through the peephole, heart racing. A delivery driver stood in the hallway beside two large boxes and a third smaller one stacked neatly on top. Delivery for Olivia Carter. She opened the door slowly. Yes, she said, voice tight. She signed where he pointed, thanked him more times than necessary, and watched as the boxes were set gently against the wall like fragile things. When the door closed, she stood there staring at them, afraid to touch them, afraid they might disappear if she did. She opened the smallest box first. Formula, the exact brand her pediatrician recommended. 2 full containers. Her throat tightened. The larger boxes followed. Diapers, wipes, baby clothes folded with care, bottles, a baby monitor she had once bookmarked and then closed because it felt cruel to want it. At the bottom of the last box, there was a simple envelope. Inside, a single card. He shouldn't have to ration comfort. That was all. No signature. She sat on the floor and cried again, but this time it was quieter. Controlled. The kind of tears that come from being seen instead of saved. Her phone buzzed. Did everything arrive okay? Yes, she typed. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. You don't, he replied. That's not how this works. She held Noah against her chest and stared at the wall, absorbing the words. She had spent so long calculating debts, tracking who owed whom, keeping invisible tallies in her head. The idea of help without repayment felt dangerous, unnatural. Later that afternoon, while Noah napped, Olivia sat at her small kitchen table and opened her laptop for the first time in weeks. The screen flickered to life, reflecting her tired face back at her. She logged into her email, bracing herself for overdue notices and unread messages that felt heavier than they should. Instead, there was one new email. From an unfamiliar address. Subject line simple. Question. She hesitated, then opened it. I saw from your text that you get paid next week. What do you do for work? Her fingers hovered over the keys. She considered lying, giving a simpler answer. Something less revealing. I used to work full-time, she typed finally. Dental lab technician. Then my hours got cut after maternity leave. I freelance now when I can. A pause. You like the work? It was not phrased as a question. Yes, she replied. I was good at it. Another pause. What happened? She swallowed. She thought of the office manager's tight smile, of the way the conversation shifted the moment she mentioned childcare scheduling, of the paperwork that came later, formal but hollow. They said business slowed, she typed. It always does when you need stability. Several minutes passed. In that silence, Ethan sat alone in his office, staring out at Lake Michigan as gray clouds pressed low against the skyline. The building was quiet, but his mind was not. The message on his screen blurred for a moment as an older memory surfaced. A hospital room painted an optimistic shade of green. Machines humming softly. A woman lying still, her hand cold in his. The weight of words doctors use when they are trying to prepare you for loss without saying it outright. He had not known how to help then either. He closed his eyes, the memory sharp but contained, like glass wrapped in cloth. When he opened them, he typed carefully. Would you be open to a conversation? No obligation. Just a call. Olivia read the message twice. A call meant voice. Voice meant reality. Reality meant this might change into something she could not control. She thought about Noah sleeping peacefully in the next room. About the boxes stacked neatly against her wall. About the way Ethan had not asked for pictures or proof or gratitude beyond what came naturally. Yes, she typed. Okay. They spoke that evening. Ethan's voice was calm, measured, lower than she expected. He did not rush her. He asked about Noah first, then listened as she talked about work, about juggling schedules, about how being capable did not always mean being supported. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he said quietly, I may have something for you, but I don't want you to hear it as charity. Her heart thudded. I don't do charity, he continued. I do opportunity. And only if you want it. She closed her eyes. What kind? A temporary position, he said. Remote to start. Part-time. Paid. No pressure. If it doesn't fit your life, we end it clean. Her mind raced. What company? She asked. Mine. The word hung between them, heavy and unreal. I don't understand, she said. You don't need to yet, he replied. Just consider it. After the call ended, Olivia sat in the dark long after the screen went black. She thought of another flashback, uninvited but insistent. Standing in a corporate hallway years earlier, pregnant and waiting, watching interviewers glance at her stomach before glancing at the clock. The polite rejection emails that followed. The slow realization that competence did not protect you from inconvenience. Her phone buzzed once more. No rush, Ethan texted. Sleep on it. She did. That night, Olivia dreamed of walking into a building with glass walls and light everywhere, carrying Noah against her chest without apology. She woke before dawn, heart steady, decision already forming. She did not know yet that accepting the call would pull her into a world far more complicated than formula and boxes. But for the first time, she did not feel afraid of what came next. The building did not look like a place that made decisions about people's lives. That was the first thing Olivia noticed when she arrived downtown 2 days later. No marble floors, no fountains, no aggressive displays of wealth meant to intimidate. Just glass, steel, and quiet movement. The kind of place where people worked, not posed. The sign outside read Caldwell Health Systems in understated lettering that did not try to impress anyone who was not already paying attention. Olivia stood across the street for a full minute before crossing. Noah was strapped against her chest, warm and heavy in a way that grounded her. She adjusted the sling, smoothed her thrifted blazer, and took a breath she felt all the way down to her ribs. She reminded herself she was not here to beg. She was here to listen. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of coffee and something clean she could not name. The security desk attendant smiled and waved her through without asking for ID, as if he had been expecting her. That unsettled her more than if he had questioned her. The elevator ride was quiet. No music, just the hum of cables and the soft ding of passing floors. On the 12th floor, a woman with calm eyes and a tablet in her hand stepped forward. Olivia Carter, she said, not asking. I'm Megan. You're right on time. Expected. That word again. Megan led her down a corridor lined with glass offices. People inside were working, not watching. No one stared at the baby. No one whispered. That alone felt radical. They stopped in front of a room with a door slightly ajar. This is for you, Megan said simply, pushing it open. It was not an office. It was a small nursery. Not decorative. Functional. Clean crib. Changing table. Soft lighting. A chair positioned just right for tired arms. A small sign on the wall listing feeding times, written neatly, as if someone had thought about the rhythm of a baby's day. Olivia's breath caught. This isn't. I didn't ask for this, she said. Megan smiled gently. You didn't have to. They continued walking, and Olivia noticed something else. There were parents here. Not many, but enough. A woman passing by nodded at Noah, like it was the most normal thing in the world. When they reached a modest conference room, Megan gestured for Olivia to sit. He'll be a few minutes, she said. Take your time. The door closed softly. Olivia sat there, heart pounding, staring at her reflection in the glass. She looked like herself, tired but intact, not desperate, not small. Her phone buzzed. You made it, Ethan texted. Yes, she replied. Another pause. I'm glad. The door opened without ceremony. Ethan did not look like a man who expected gratitude. He wore a plain button-down, sleeves rolled, no tie. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he had run a hand through it too many times. He stopped when he saw Noah, not with surprise, but with something quieter. Recognition. Thank you for coming, he said. Thank you for having me, Olivia replied. They sat across from each other. There was no desk between them. I want to be clear before we talk about anything else, Ethan said. This is not a rescue. I don't believe in that model. It creates dependency, not stability. Olivia nodded slowly. I believe in access, he continued, and in correcting inefficiencies. Talent sitting idle because life interfered is an inefficiency. She almost laughed, but stopped herself. You didn't even see my resume, she said. I didn't need to, he replied. I saw how you wrote, how you negotiated dignity under pressure. People don't learn that by accident. Something in her chest loosened. He slid a folder across the table. Temporary contract. 3 months. Flexible hours. Remote work with optional on-site days. Full pay. Benefits prorated. The number at the bottom made her blink. This is more than I made before, she said. I know, Ethan replied. You were underpaid. She looked at him sharply. You checked. I verify things, he said simply. She hesitated. I need to know something, she said. Why me? Really? Ethan leaned back, hands clasped loosely. A different memory surfaced then, unbidden. A younger Ethan, standing in a grocery store aisle late at night, counting coins in his palm. His mother beside him, pretending not to notice, quietly putting items back on the shelf one by one. The way she smiled at the cashier like everything was fine. The way she never asked for help, even when it was offered too loudly and too publicly. He had learned early that humiliation often arrived disguised as kindness. I lost someone, he said finally, and I couldn't fix it. I built a lot of things afterward, but none of them brought that person back. So I pay attention now when I see someone trying to hold their world together quietly. Olivia swallowed. This job doesn't obligate you to me, he added. If at any point it stops serving your life, we end it. Cleanly. She looked down at Noah, asleep against her chest, then back at the folder. I'll take it, she said. Not because of the money. Because of the respect. Her first week passed faster than she expected. She worked during naps. Logged in early. Logged off without guilt when no one needed her. No one questioned her schedule. No one made jokes. No one treated her presence as an inconvenience. On the 4th day, she noticed something off. It was small. A discrepancy in a report that most people would ignore. A rounding error here. A delayed approval there. Nothing dramatic. But patterns do not announce themselves. They whisper. She flagged it privately. On the 5th day, she found another. She did not mention it yet. On the 7th day, she found a third, and this one made her sit back in her chair, heart beating slower, sharper. She sent a message. I think there's an issue in procurement. Small, but consistent. The response came almost immediately. Can you document it? Ethan asked. Yes, she replied. But if I'm right, this isn't a mistake. A pause. That's what I was afraid you'd say, he replied. In that moment, Olivia understood something important. This opportunity was not accidental. She had not been brought in just to be helped. She had been brought in because someone needed the truth, and she was the kind of person who did not look away when she found it. Outside her office, the city moved on like nothing was wrong. Inside, Olivia Carter opened a new file, unaware that she had just crossed a line that would change everything again. By the 2nd week, Olivia stopped thinking of the job as temporary. Not because she felt safe, because she felt useful. Her days fell into a rhythm that surprised her. Early mornings when the city was still quiet. Noah fed and settled in the nursery room down the hall. The soft glow of her monitor reflecting numbers that finally made sense again. She had missed this feeling more than she realized. The click in her mind when patterns aligned. The satisfaction of clarity. The problem was no longer whether something was wrong. It was how deep it went. She had learned early in her career that real misconduct never announced itself loudly. It hid inside normalcy, inside approvals that looked routine, inside people who had learned how to make small things invisible. By Thursday afternoon, Olivia had built a private spreadsheet mapping irregular vendor payments over the last 9 months. Each one small enough to evade alerts. Each one approved through different departments. Each one clean on its own. Together, they told a different story. She stared at the screen for a long time before exporting the file. Then she hesitated. This was the moment where most people backed away. She knew that. She had seen it before. You notice something wrong, and suddenly you remember your mortgage, your kid, your fragile stability. You tell yourself it is not your problem. Her phone buzzed. Still seeing it, Ethan texted. Yes, she replied. And it's not random. A minute passed. Come to my office, he said. Bring whatever you have. She closed the file, encrypted it, and stood slowly. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. Ethan's office was quieter than the rest of the floor. The city beyond the glass looked distant, muted. He did not ask her to sit. He watched as she laid out the findings, her voice calm as she explained the pattern, the routing, the intent behind the structure. When she finished, there was a long silence. He did not look shocked. That aligns with what I've suspected, he said finally. You suspected, she repeated. Yes, he said. I just couldn't prove it. She studied his face, searching for hesitation, for fear. What she saw instead was something harder. Resignation. Why not bring in auditors, she asked. Because whoever built this understands auditors, he replied. And because I didn't know who I could trust internally. She felt the weight of that land. Who benefits? She asked quietly. Ethan turned to the window. My brother-in-law, he said. The words settled between them like dust. My late wife's brother, he continued. He's been with the company since the beginning. CFO. Brilliant. Careful. And convinced I owe him something. Olivia said nothing. Another memory surfaced then, not hers. Ethan in a hospital corridor 3 years ago, hands shaking as a doctor explained complications. His wife pale and exhausted, insisting she was fine. Her brother standing nearby, eyes sharp, watching him like a ledger waiting to be balanced. The way grief rearranged loyalty. The way guilt made people malleable. He thinks I failed her, Ethan said. And maybe I did. But that doesn't excuse this. Olivia exhaled slowly. You brought me in because I don't belong to that history, she said. Yes, he replied. And because you see without flinching. She nodded once. I'll keep going, she said. Quietly. Good, he said. Because if we're right, this won't end privately. That night, Olivia dreamed of numbers bleeding into each other, of doors closing softly behind her. The next morning, the pressure started. It was subtle at first. A request to reroute her access. A meeting she was excluded from without explanation. An email from finance questioning her scope. Nothing overt. Nothing she could point to and say this is it. But she felt it. She remembered another flashback then. Standing in a break room years earlier, while 2 senior techs spoke in low voices about a colleague who had asked too many questions. The way his name stopped appearing on schedules afterward. The way his desk emptied quietly one weekend. She adjusted. She stopped saving files locally. She duplicated everything in encrypted backups. She sent summaries to Ethan verbally instead of electronically. She learned who to avoid and when to move. By Friday, she had what she needed. Proof that the vendor account tied back to a shell entity registered under a consulting firm that traced to her brother-in-law's personal legal advisor. It was elegant, sophisticated, deliberate. She sent Ethan a single message. I have confirmation. His reply came seconds later. Stay where you are. I'm coming to you. He arrived looking tired but composed. This ends soon, he said. One way or another. She nodded. That afternoon, the request came. A meeting invite marked urgent. Subject line neutral. Attendees limited. Her name was on it. She did not attend. Instead, she forwarded it to Ethan. He read it and smiled without humor. He's moving, he said. That evening, Olivia packed a bag she hoped she would not need. Just in case. Noah slept peacefully as she folded clothes, unaware that the stability she had just begun to feel was already under threat again. Her phone buzzed. You're not alone in this, Ethan texted. She typed back without hesitation. I know. Outside, the city lights flickered on one by one, indifferent and bright. Inside, Olivia Carter sat beside her sleeping son and waited for the truth to demand its price. The meeting happened without warning. Not the one on the calendar. That one was a decoy. The real one unfolded quietly at 9:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of time when people are just settled enough to believe nothing disruptive will happen. Olivia was at her desk, Noah asleep in the nursery room down the hall, when her access froze. Not everything, just enough. Her cursor lagged. A permissions error flashed once, then disappeared. She tried again. Same result. The system was not locked. It was narrowed. She leaned back slowly. This was not a technical glitch. This was pressure. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, don't react. I see it. She exhaled, keeping her movements ordinary. She opened a blank document and began typing notes by hand, as if nothing had changed. 5 minutes later, a woman from compliance appeared at her door, smile polite and rehearsed. There's been a scope review, the woman said. We need you in conference room C. Olivia stood, calm. I'll bring my notes, she said. No need. The woman replied too quickly. Olivia nodded and followed her down the hallway, past glass offices and lowered voices. Conference room C was already occupied. 3 people sat inside. The CFO, Richard Hale. 2 board members. No Ethan. That told her everything. Richard looked exactly as he always did. Tailored suit. Relaxed posture. A man who had never had to raise his voice to win. He smiled when he saw her. Olivia, he said warmly. Thank you for coming on short notice. She did not return the smile. I'll stand, she said, remaining by the door. Something flickered behind his eyes. We've been reviewing your role, Richard continued. And your access level. I imagine you have, she said evenly. One of the board members cleared his throat. There are concerns, he said. About overreach. Olivia waited. Richard leaned forward slightly. You were hired for support, he said. Not investigation. I was hired to notice inefficiencies, she replied. I did. Richard sighed, as if disappointed. You're very capable, he said. But sometimes capable people misunderstand context. Olivia felt it then. The familiar tightening. The unspoken threat dressed as reasonableness. She remembered a flashback, sharp and unwelcome. A conference room years ago. Different city. Different men. Same tone. The way the conversation had shifted once, she stopped being useful and started being inconvenient. She met Richard's gaze. Context doesn't change math, she said. One of the board members shifted in his chair. Richard smiled again, slower this time. There's an ethics complaint, he said. Filed this morning. Her stomach dropped, but her face did not change. Against me, she said. And Mr. Caldwell, Richard replied smoothly. Alleging misuse of company funds. Improper hiring. Conflicts of interest. Olivia almost laughed. You're accusing the CEO of what you're doing, she said. Richard's smile vanished. You should be careful, he said quietly. This company is bigger than both of us. The door opened. Ethan walked in. The room went still. He did not sit. He did not smile. He placed a tablet on the table and tapped once. Before this continues, he said calmly, you should know the complaint triggered an automatic hold. Richard stiffened. A hold on what? He asked. On account access. Ethan replied. Yours. One of the board members looked up sharply. What are you talking about? Ethan turned the tablet toward them. Logs appeared. Device IDs. Timestamps. Vendor routing trails. Not Olivia's work. Someone else's. Independent. Verified. And before you ask, Ethan continued, this data was pulled by a third-party forensic team retained under my authority 2 weeks ago. Richard's face drained of color. You went outside the board, he said. I went outside compromised oversight, Ethan replied. Silence pressed down on the room. Olivia felt a surge of heat behind her eyes. Not fear. Recognition. This was the moment. Richard leaned back slowly. You think this proves intent, he said. It proves nothing. Ethan nodded once. That's why I didn't stop there. He tapped the screen again. An email chain appeared. Short. Professional. From Richard's assistant. Requesting override credentials. Approved by Richard. Time stamped at 2:42 a.m. Richard stood abruptly. This is a witch hunt, he snapped. You're emotional. You always have been since your wife died. The room froze. Olivia felt her breath catch. Ethan did not raise his voice. You don't get to weaponize my grief, he said quietly. Not anymore. One of the board members stood. This meeting is adjourned, he said. Effective immediately, Richard Hale is suspended pending investigation. Richard stared around the room, stunned. You can't do this, he said. I built half this company. You bled it, Ethan replied. Security arrived at the door. Richard's eyes finally found Olivia. You think you've won, he said softly. You're disposable. He'll survive. You won't. Olivia stepped forward. I survived before him, she said. I'll survive after you. Richard was escorted out. The door closed. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Ethan turned to Olivia. You okay? She nodded. I am now. That afternoon, the news broke quietly. Internal investigation. Executive suspension. No names released yet. But the tone had shifted. By evening, Olivia sat at home with Noah asleep against her chest, watching the city darken outside her window. Her phone buzzed continuously. Messages from coworkers. From Megan. From compliance. And one from Ethan. Thank you for staying. She typed back. Thank you for not flinching. She thought it was over. It wasn't. At 11:36 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. You made a powerful enemy, Richard's voice said calmly. And powerful enemies don't lose quietly. The line went dead. Olivia stared at the phone, heart steady. She looked down at Noah. And for the first time since this began, she understood something with absolute clarity. Justice did not end when the truth came out. That was only when the consequences began. The retaliation never came loudly. That was the first thing Olivia noticed. No smashed windows. No threatening emails. No dramatic accusations splashed across headlines. Just silence. And silence, she had learned, was often the most dangerous response of all. 3 days passed. Then 5. Then a week. The investigation moved forward exactly as Ethan promised. External auditors. Regulatory notifications. Quiet board reshuffling. Richard Hale's name vanished from internal directories overnight, like he had never existed. People spoke in careful tones now. Meetings ended early. Decisions slowed. The company breathed like it had just survived a long illness. Olivia returned to work, but something had shifted. People looked at her differently. Not with pity, not with suspicion, with respect. She felt it in the way conversations paused when she entered a room. In the way questions were directed to her instead of around her. In the way her words carried weight now, even when she spoke softly. She did not enjoy it. She understood it. One afternoon, as she was leaving the building with Noah bundled against her chest, Ethan walked beside her in silence. The city air was cool, early fall settling into Chicago with that crisp clarity that made everything feel sharper. You don't owe me anything, he said suddenly. She glanced at him. I know, she replied. You could have walked away, he continued. When the pressure started. When the risk became real. So could you, she said. He stopped walking. She did too. For a moment, they just stood there on the sidewalk, traffic humming past them, the city indifferent and alive. I didn't, he said, because I was tired of watching people like him win by default. Olivia thought of another flashback then, one she had not revisited in years. Standing in a courthouse hallway with her mother, eviction notice folded carefully in a purse like it might explode if handled wrong. Watching people in suits walk past them without seeing them. Learning, in that moment, how easily the system overlooked quiet people. I was tired of that too, she said. That night, the call finally came. Not from Richard, from his lawyer. The tone was measured, polite, carefully hostile. There have been allegations, the lawyer said, and counter-allegations are being considered. Olivia listened without interrupting. There may be attempts to discredit you, he continued. Personally, professionally, She smiled faintly. "You're late," she said. That already happened years ago. She ended the call and sat in the dark living room, Noah asleep beside her, his breathing slow and even. She felt no fear, only resolve. The weeks that followed unfolded predictably. Media interest surged briefly, then shifted elsewhere. The board finalized leadership changes. Ethan's position solidified, not because of sympathy, but because of proof. Caldwell Health Systems emerged steadier than before, and Olivia was promoted. Not publicly, not ceremonially, but definitively. Her title changed. Her pay increased. Her authority formalized. No press release mentioned her name. She preferred it that way. One evening, months later, she sat across from Ethan at a small restaurant tucked between brick buildings, the kind of place that did not announce itself. Noah slept in his stroller beside them, full and peaceful. "I never thanked you properly," Ethan said. "You did," Olivia replied. "When you trusted me." He nodded. "I'd like to ask you something," he said. She waited. "Not as your employer," he continued. "Not as someone with resources. Just as a man who sees you." Her chest tightened slightly. "Okay," she said. "I don't want to build anything on imbalance," he said. "I've lived on that side of the world too long. If this ever becomes something else, it has to be chosen freely." She thought of the night on her kitchen floor, of the wrong text, of the quiet question that followed. "Is your baby okay right now?" "I know," she said. "That's why I'm still here." They did not rush. They did not define anything. They simply sat, present, grounded in something that had not been bought or owed. Across the city, in a much smaller apartment, Richard Hale watched the news quietly. Charges pending. Reputation fractured. Power gone. For the first time, no one returned his calls. He understood now what he had underestimated. Not Ethan's money. Not Olivia's intelligence. But restraint. The kind that waits. Observes. Documents. And moves only when the truth is heavy enough to crush. Back home, Olivia tucked Noah into his crib and stood there a long moment, watching his chest rise and fall. She thought of how close she had come to breaking, of how easily things could have gone another way. She did not believe in miracles. She believed in moments, and in what happened when someone chose not to look away. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Ethan. "Good night." She smiled softly and typed back, "Good night." The city outside continued on, unaware. But inside one small apartment, stability had replaced fear. And that, Olivia knew, was the real victory.